Welcome back to the Impact Storytelling Podcast. I'm your host, Sabine M, Probst, and today I'm conversing with documentary filmmaker, National Geographic Explorer, Jackson Wild Summit Fellow, and Fullbright scholar Lucía Flórez. Lucia's most recent film, Shirampari, Legacies of the River, premiered at prestigious film festivals like Sundance. Currently, she's working on 2 new amazing documentary films that she's going to tell us more about today. Welcome, Gia. I'm really happy to be filming this episode with you and sharing your experience and work with the audience. We're going to talk about 3 amazing documentary films of yours today. But before we do so, I want to ask you a little bit about your beginnings with documentary filmmaking. Your career already spans a few years back, and I'm curious about when you decided to start a career in this field and what brought you to it. What was your first project?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely seeing you again and talking about the work that brings us together. My career started a while back when I first graduated from college. I started interning first at an NGO, local NGO in Peru, where I'm from. That's called the Peruvian Society for Environmental Law, in a project that was called Climate Changes Social Youth, where I got to travel with a photographer to the Andean Amazonic countries, which are Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia, and talking with indigenous people to see how they adapted to climate change using their traditional knowledge. And I think that was an eye-opening experience for me because I got to give voice to people that were not having a platform at that time. And I found that there was power through documentary films where you can put these issues in the forefront, push them forward. And I just got really excited and hooked with that sense of purpose, telling communities stories, getting to travel to pristine places in the country and the region where not a lot of people went, and hearing those stories. So that was the beginning. And I started after that doing more and more work with indigenous people, mostly in the Amazon. I created my own production company, which now has 10 years. I can't believe that. Doing this kind of work. At first, mostly for NGOs and environmental organizations, the government, but all around conservation. And then it started spanning into more storytelling and all documentary work that I do now.
It sounds really nice. Did you also use storytelling when working with the NGO, or did that came later?
It was a storytelling, but it was much more institutional, I would say, that responded to a specific project that they were working on in a specific area. So you still had to highlight their success stories or what their goals, what was important for them, right? So there wasn't such a creative freedom at that point. And I think that later in my career, when I started studying, master's in documentary filmmaking, making in New York, that I started developing more narrative tools to start doing the work that I do now. No, then that has more of a very style and that kind of growth.
Yeah, I can imagine you learned a lot there. I did a directing course alongside my university studies at the New York Film Academy, and it was great. I learned a lot. Did you then both move to LA and New York?
Yeah. Thanks to a Fullbright scholarship, I moved to both New York and LA to study documentary filmmaking in the New York Film Academy. And I got to meet some awesome teachers and got inspired, but also by my peers, and started to think about what was my voice inside of the documentary world, not only in topic, subject, stories, but also in style, right? To explore more of that aspect. Yeah. That I think there was a turning point there, right? It was crucial, I think.
That seems to have been a very important time and start in your career. Besides what you learned there and the connections you built, what helped you to get to the point in your career that you are at now?
Yeah, I think that definitely those years were important. Information, right? In exploring, because you dedicate 2 or almost 3 years of your life just to exploring your your own like creative vision, directorial view, right? So like it's like putting all of your energy there. So I think that was important to get me, I guess, to where I am right now. And then also like opportunities that arise from there, right? After I finished my master's, I went back to Peru and I started crafting Shirampari, Legacies of the River, and applying to this Natgeo grant and getting it. So I think that was another big step, right, in becoming a Natgeo Explorer. And yeah, I mean, things started like rolling after that. The film, I mean, we put a lot of love into the film, and I think that it got a very, very nice festival run. I got into Sundance, Leipzig, NYC, lots of festivals. And that also like starts building recognition, So it was like this kind of like successes that like fall one to the other that I think that got me to where I am right now.
You already had a beautiful career journey so far. When we met in 2022 at Jackson Wild, you were just premiering your film Shirampari, Legacies of the River at different film festivals worldwide. How did you find the story and decide to make a film about it?
Yeah, well, that story, I found it because of my business partner, actually, who's the director of cinematography of the film. He went to Urua, which is the region where the film was shot, back like in 2016. So like 6 years before we made the film, actually. He was taking some pictures for like another project, and he saw this man coming out of the water with this giant catfish, and he asked like, how did you catch that fish? And he described that they have this diving technique where they catch the catfish with a hook, and it really like blew his mind. I think that he became kind of obsessed with first photographing this underwater practice. It was like the first idea, and you can only do it like in a window of time where the river kind of like comes down and these ponds are formed, so the giant catfishes kind of like lay there and it's easier to catch them. So each year that would pass, it would be like, we need to go back and shoot this or make something, a story around it. But we never kind of like figure out what to do, because we had like a topic like that we wanted to explore, but we didn't have a story. So, I mean, and it's expensive to go there. I mean, to invest your own like energy, time to do it. We didn't have those resources. So when I came back from doing my master's, we still had this idea, and we saw this Nat Geo open grant that was called Heritage and the Natural World at that time. So it was like, okay, let's try to like craft a story around heritage and also through this practice, right? And it was during the pandemic, so we started having Zoom calls with the community because they had Wi-Fi installed by the government, so the kids could go to like virtual school. So that was like lucky for us, because otherwise there was no way to communicate with them. So we started talking to the park rangers and the people that Diego is the DP, met back in the day. And they all started like pointing to Arlindo, which is Ricky's father, the protagonist of the film. So we finally talked to Arlindo, and he said that he had a little boy, 11-year-old at the time, that was about to learn this practice. So we were like, okay, so here's the story, right? There's like a boy that's gonna be about to go through something. So we told him that we were like applying to this grant. Hopefully, like don't teach him yet, just wait for us to come next year, and we would love to shoot like this real like kind of rite of passage that was gonna happen, right? And luckily we got the grant, and yeah, we got to experience like this important moment in Ricky's life by his side, right, in real time. So that was really special.
Yeah, it's really cool. What I'm really surprised about is how they see anything underwater there.
Yeah, me too.
Underwater shots in the film.
Yeah, it's more like an effect also. Yeah, I mean, Diego told me that you would see everything. He was like, you wouldn't believe that it's the Amazon, like it's crystal clear. And I kind of like, okay, let's go. And once we got there, it was not the case. It's so blurry and muddy, the water. But we decided to make that kind of part of the story, right? Because it was much more harder to catch a catfish in those blurry waters than like, I don't know, the Caribbean or like kind of those like waters where you have like great visibility, right? But yeah, we would dive next to the Ashanika people and they would see the catfish and we wouldn't. And we had goggles and everything. They just like do it with their own eyes. So it's kind of like they're trained to see it. And of course, like they can hear it too. And I mean, it's traditional indigenous knowledge too. There was at one point when I was like diving through the logs and I could like kind of feel the mustaches of the catfish like around tickling my face, but I couldn't see it. It was like that blurry.
Okay. Wait, we're close though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was important for you to convey with the film?
A lot of things. I think that the film has a lot of layers, for sure. Like legacy and traditional knowledge was one of them. But I think that at the end, looking back, what was important for me was to convey like indigenous joy. You know, I think that we a lot of times tend to see indigenous people kind of like fighting for the rights because I mean there are a lot of struggles and a lot of like fights around territory and land and rights in general. But in my experience, when I go to indigenous communities, there's a lot of laughter too, a lot of like joy, and I think that was important for me to show also, you know, like this like beautiful kind of side of like a boy living in the forest and having this connection with nature and kind of like taking this sometimes over romanticized vision that we have about like indigenous communities, that they're kind of like mystic or something like that. Of course they are too, right? But they're also like kids are playing in the river, and I think that building those kind of like correlations with like the audience was one of the reasons why the film also was successful. Because like it's that this kid could be like a kid anywhere. Like at the beginning, he's watching YouTube and his father is like, okay, stop watching YouTube. We need to like go and learn some stuff, right? And I think that's something that people can relate to also.
You definitely found and told a very interesting story. Also, to get an insight into the life of the boy and his family was really nice to see. Let's watch the trailer so everyone can get a better understanding of what we are talking about.
Shaky, quase idiota na depois pichadi nede. Tebinha ete denga it's papania. Shaky ni idiota yemi dunia kaga. Pero kan idiota na yemi kita sunya tamane lukamai. Sepakat sih deh.
Beautiful trailer. The underwater shots, I have no idea how the people can see anything there. Maybe a lot is done by touching. It looks like quite a challenge. And talking about challenges, what did you find most challenging creating this documentary film?
I think that there were a lot of challenges in different like levels. For sure, one of them was the language, because we got to the community thinking that the film was going to be in Spanish. And we figured out, I mean, once we were there, it's like, okay, no one speaks Spanish, so we have to make this film in Ashanika. And no one in the crew spoke Ashanika. So it was hard making a very tough film, not actually knowing exactly what people were saying. So it's harder to like follow the emotion and to, yeah, you're kind of like deaf in that sense. But I think that at the end, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because the fact that we couldn't understand in the moment what they were saying created like a privacy barrier for them, right? So they kind of like opened up more. They were much more like um, natural in their conversations, and they touched like in more like sensitive topics. So I think that it was great. Like once we got that translations back, it was like so many like little gems that shine there and allowed us like to put together something much more like intimate that we were thinking at the beginning. So for sure that was like one challenge. Another one would be like how far the community was and how hard it was like for us to get there. And it was like kind of at the end of the pandemic. So there was like not enough like gasoline to do everything because we needed to have like gasoline for like to charge the batteries, but also like to move around through the boats. So we had to like go to Brazil to buy it. And it was like crazy logistics. But yeah, I think that those were like the challenges, and this through like production, right? Like then distribution has like its own challenges.
I know from my own experience how hard it is to make a film where the protagonist speaks a language that I don't speak and understand. I was just constantly hoping the right questions were asked in the interview and that the answers were good, as I couldn't understand anything. It was also hard to edit the film then. But in your film, it might have been a benefit. As you said, they felt more free to speak. You said there were some challenges besides that. What other challenges did you face?
Well, I think that a lot of times people don't like to share like all the rejections that are like behind each success. And I think that it's important to talk about that too, because like, yeah, it was a successful film in festivals, but like at the beginning, we had like a year where like we were getting rejection after rejection from like all of the film festivals that we wanted to get in. And at one point, it was like, okay, is it good enough? Like, do we keep trying? Because it also takes like time, energy. Like each rejection kind of like tears you down, and also like money. You know, like you have to like submit it to festivals, and there's a fee there. So it's like, okay, up to what point we still keep trying, or just like make I don't know, like a local screen in Yoruba, or like like do something much more like grassroots, right? But like at some point something changed. I don't have like the exact answer, but like we were not getting into any festivals. And then Doug Leipzig took us in for like their kids section, which was weird because we were like, okay, it's not a movie for kids. I mean, it has a kid as a character, but like there's blood too. There's like, I don't know if it's for kids, but okay, we'll take it because it's a great festival. Okay, let's do it. And it was really interesting. We went there actually after Jackson in 2022. It was 2022, right? Yeah.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. I mean, confused with years now. But we went to Leipzig, and they did a screening for like this theater full of kids. Like it was like an after school kind of screening, and there was like live translation in German. And it actually worked. Like the kids were like so engaged with the film. We had a Q&A, and it worked. And I think that like some programmers like might have see it in like Doc Leipzig and picked it up for other festivals, because like after that it kind of like started like getting accepted, right? Up to the point that like it got into Sundance the next year. I mean, we talked to the programmers at Sundance, and like they said that they organically saw it through Film Freeway and liked it. But yeah, you never know. It kind of like got in a row and started getting into festivals, and it's been all over now. I mean, I kind of like lost the count, but like I would say like 80 film festivals or something like that after that. Well, I mean, it's a lot. Yeah.
Sadly, the rejection rate at film festivals is really high. I Googled it once. and different sources said different things, but to take all of it together, the acceptance rate was between 1.4 and 10%, if I remember right. And I know that some festivals already choose the films months before the deadline to submit ends. I sadly also had experience with that already, where I got in contact with the festivals, so I know it from the people that made the festivals firsthand. And as I also judged at two big and well-known film festivals this year, I also know how many films got entered and how many people it takes to go through all of these films and how many criteria you have to fulfill to get one round ahead. There are so many good films being submitted, and at bigger film festivals, you are going against $1 million productions, and they're might be in the same category as your independent $0 budget film. So your film has then to be really outstanding. That's why it's also important to submit to smaller festivals and choose where you want to enter and enter wisely, as it's not that inexpensive. I remember one article I read said if you enter around 50 festivals, you should get accepted around 5. So that's crazy. Don't get discouraged when you aren't getting into every festival or the first festivals don't accept you. As we see on your example, Tia, it also didn't start off great, but then it was rolling and you got into Sundance. And congrats on that again.
It was exciting. I mean, I feel like at some point and years ago, I literally like verbalized that like one of my dreams was to get a film into Sundance. I guess like every filmmaker's, kind of dream or goal is to get a film into Sundance, right? So like being there, like, and having a film to show, it was a great experience. Very like validating too, like after all the work we put into the film, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a great feeling. For your films, Shirampari and El Niño y el Tiburón, or Ella and the Sharks, you chose a kind of cinema verite style. Why did you choose this style? I liked the scene in Shirampari where the kids played soccer, and through the camera movement, I felt like I was there in the middle of the game, as well as at the beginning scene where the man was carrying the leaves and the camera was so close that the leaves touched it. Do you feel like through this style you convey emotions better and the feeling of being there?
Yes, for sure. I don't know, like, is today I would call it cinema verite, but like more like direct cinema. I mean, having that sense where like information is delivered through action or through interactions through the characters, and not like through interviews or like direct conversations with like the camera, right? But yeah, I feel like it's a style that allows the story to develop like in real time in front of the camera in a way. I feel like a lot of documentaries, maybe like more traditional ones, kind of like tell you the story through like interviews, something that happened already in the past, and then you kind of like try to illustrate that with B-roll or like more metaphoric images or something like that, but it's guided through text, through like something that is told, you know? And I feel like through this direct cinema style, you can like feel that you're there, no? And the action is happening in the present, right? As I was like kind of describing how we kind of produced this story, it was, okay, we found something that was about to happen and shoot it in real time, right? I mean, if you compare it to like something differently made, it would have been like, tell me, I mean, this already happened, and then tell me how it went in the past, you know? Like, so I think that it's a style that allows us to be in the present in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, that's how I feel.
No, it makes sense. It makes the viewers feel like they are there in the story. It's not like getting told a story like when
Exactly.
someone is reading it to you. You see it like in a fiction film or in real life. It's happening in front of you. It engages the viewers to pay more attention and feel it more.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it feels like you're watching a film, you know, like a narrative film in a way. Um, and it's a different kind of experience, right? Because like, as you said, if you are told the story, like, why don't I just read it? Or why is it not an article? Like, why is it a film, you know? And I think that as us as filmmakers, we have to like make that distinction too, in a way.
Yes, for sure. Do you sometimes find it hard to decide what to film and how much to step into the protagonist's life? I am thinking, for example, of one scene of Shirampari where the boy and his father were in a tent talking, and you could hear them even though you couldn't see them. You could only see the tent from the outside. How do you go about filming this scene without stepping over a line?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a dilemma, and I feel like I'm feeling it more now with the feature film that I'm working on, Ever in the Sharks, because we're following this kid for like 4 years. So like as he grows, like we're kind of also invading his life, right? Like we were shooting in November these scenes at his school. And yeah, he was like the center of attention during like recess, and kids started like kind of picking at him, like, oh, like the famous guy, the famous guy. So like you are like creating an impact, doing a film with also like little boys. I don't know why I'm shooting such young characters at this point, but like it's something that like as a team we were talking about, like how much do we like shoot, or how much like are we, I don't know. Yeah, that invading his private life, right? But I think that you have to be really like vocal and have good communication with your characters too, to let them know that at any point, like they can tell you like, turn off the camera, and I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, I was talking to Ever from this new project, and I was like, if at any point you don't want to keep doing this film, that's totally okay. You know, like you have like no responsibility with us. Like we totally understand, right? And we're shooting these like private moments with him. His dad passed away, like going to the cemetery with him, and he's emotional and he's really young, and like you are creating like these memories that maybe could be like even traumatic, you know? So like it's a delicate barrier, and I think that you have to constantly reassure your characters and let them also have agency on how they want to be portrayed, you know? Like
Yeah.
so it's a collective kind of creation too, right? Like because it is their image that's gonna be out there at the end of the day. So they need to have a say on that too, right? Like how, like what kind of scenes you can shoot, what others can't, and yeah, having that relationship at the end of the day is like a trust relationship too, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a trust relationship. I think even more so with a kid that probably can't fully comprehend what it then also means when the film gets published and released out into the world. There, it's really important to have a good and safe relationship with him and his family. It sounds like you're doing a great job there. As you just said, your film El Niño y el Tiburón, or also Eva and the Sharks, it has a really touching story with a young protagonist. How do you find and choose the stories you are creating films about?
Each project has its own like kind of experience and backstory. Like it's not always like the same methodology of how that I choose a story, right? In Shirampari, it was like I told you, like we had access to this like world and we wanted to do something there. And in Ever and the Sharks, it was more so because I'm very good friends with Alejandra, the marine biologist that has a relationship with Ever. And we were talking like, I don't know, for a long time that we wanted to do something with whale sharks in Peru, because like no one knows that there's whale sharks in Peru. Like people know that they're like in Mexico or like even Galapagos, but like in the region, like no one, not even the locals know that there's whale sharks there. So, and she works with them, and like when I saw the footage and the photos of her like swimming with whale sharks, I was like blown away. I didn't know that happened. So there was like an attraction to that world also. But again, we didn't know exactly what to do. And after she saw Shirampari, like she also told me, like, I have also a relationship with this little boy that always comes with me to do my investigations. And she's known him since he was like 5 years old, and they have like this really close relationship. So like we started building from there, you know, like this odd relationship, right? Between like a boy from a fisherman's family and these like established marine biologists that share the same territory, but like they're like in different also like planes, you know, like of existence in the same land and in the same boat even, you know. So yeah, that was like how we started like getting into the film, and it's still like changing. It's crazy because like, yeah, you start with an idea, but then you go shoot the first year, then you come back, then something happens, life happens, and then the story starts like shifting, and it's gonna keep shifting through the 4 years that we want to shoot, right? So you have to kind of like adapt the narrative pieces, and it's crazy because like life happens as it happens, you know? You can control that.
Yeah, very interesting. Are you already filming the last year now, or are more years planned?
No, we already shot 2 years, and we have 2 more to go. The last year was the second one, in November, and yeah, we plan to do it 2, or like maybe if we finish everything in 1 more, that would be okay. But like we still have some shooting to do. Yeah.
Can you briefly introduce us the story of Ever and the Sharks, and what do you expect the outcome to be?
Yeah. It's the first feature that I've done, so it's another experience for sure. And it tells a story about like this boy from a fisherman's family, that's Ever, and he has a relationship with a marine biologist as they embark on a journey to tag whale sharks in Peru for the first time in history. So like the idea is that as we find the migratory routes of these like creatures that are enigmatic to the area, Ever will also find his own like migratory routes in life, right? Like his path in life as he dreams to become a marine biologist and as he graduates high school, right? So we're gonna see him kind of like grow up year to year in parallel to the marine investigation project. That's the idea. And to shoot for 4 years to see what happens. Last year, we managed to put in the tags. So now we kind of like have to figure out where they went and maybe kind of, go and find them. Yeah. No, we're like at that point. So to like, how do we continue the story too, right? As it evolves. So yeah, a lot of challenges there too.
The film was shot above and below the water. Do you find it harder to direct scenes that were shot underwater? Did you feel like you had to prepare differently?
Yeah, I think that I don't dive, so that was something that I'm kind of like I want to learn. I'm not there. So it's kind of like on land we have much more like time and control to make the scenes more intimate and more stage to a certain extent, you know, like where do we gonna shoot what, and in the sea is like, okay, it happens what happens, you know, because like we were also kind of not shooting, how do I say, like something that was like in a like particular time and space, you know, like something that's inside this cave or something like that. But like animals that were like in movement and scientists that were like tagging them. So it's like you don't want to be also an obstacle in their way, right? Like the main goal was to tag the sharks, not to like shoot how they tag the sharks, right? And they were like kind enough to allow us to be there and shoot. That was like great access, but like but you don't want to be on their way either. So like, and it happens like in 40 seconds. It's crazy because like these whale sharks are like very young and very like rapid and they go. And it's not like the image that we have of whale sharks where they're like standing in a place really slow. No, these are other kind of whale sharks that they would like go out of your way in seconds. So like the shots literally from the moment that they jump to the water to where they tag them, they're like 40 seconds long. So it's like either you get the shot or you don't, So it's like there's not much direction that you can do there other than like go and get the shot, So like no, let's do it like against the light or something like more like metaphoric. No.
Yeah, filming with wildlife often gets stressful, and you only have a really short time to film them if they show up at all. With documentary films, it's often said that the story gets put together in the edit. Did you think that's more true or true at all with such a long documentary film filmed over many years?
I think that it's a balance because like I don't like to go on a shoot not knowing what I'm gonna shoot. To be honest, like I like to kind of like imagine and write like the scenes that I imagine in my head. And sometimes they have happen like really close to what you planned and sometimes not at all. And you have to like kind of know what the story beats you need are so you can kind of like replace them with something else in the moment. That's how that I tend to work. So like, for example, I need a moment where ever or like, I don't know, feels like he's gonna give up, So like I imagine that he's gonna feel like he's gonna give up in his room alone, for example. Now I'm just like throwing an example though. But if that doesn't happen, then how can we be really like alert to like a moment where he feels like he doesn't want to continue anymore? Maybe in the boat, or maybe like while he was like playing with his friends, or like maybe a day that he didn't want to shoot. But I feel like we still need that emotional moment where like he goes through something, So yes, we kind of like adapt the treatment in post-production, but we still know what we want ahead of time. Because if not, like I feel you can end up with like hours and hours of footage, and then what do you do with that? At the end, it's a lot more harder to shape it in post, and more expensive and more like exhausting too, because like you don't know the film that you're making, So I feel like there's definitely things that can pop up in post-production and that can surprise you, but like you still have to know what you're doing before you go on shoot, if that makes any sense.
Yes, if you can plan everything, that's great. The pre-production is certainly one of the most important plans. And going on a shoot without a plan, I would also not really recommend. And as you said, things can change, especially when you work in nature with wildlife. You never know if the weather is going to change, if the wildlife is going to appear. But from fairly warm temperatures in South America, your next film is going to be shot in the slightly colder Greenland. Inuit Rising is the name of the project funded by the Meridian Grant of National Geographic. To introduce the film, I'm shortly going to read the logline. In a remote children's home in northwest Greenland, Inuit youngsters fight anxiety after their friend Tim's passing. Driven by a desire for positive change, they unite to launch a grassroots campaign against the suicidal epidemic, challenging cultural stigmas and forging a path to hope and healing in their vulnerable Arctic community. Again, an important story you are going to share here through this film. In a remote place of our Earth that probably otherwise people wouldn't reach this story outside of the community. Can you tell us a bit more about the film and why you decided to tell this story?
Yeah, this is something really new for me. Yeah. in territory, and also like the topics, mental health, very delicate situations there and elements to work with. Also youngsters again. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It's gonna be a challenge, and I mean the story got to me through Cyril Jasbeck, who's a Natgeo Explorer, photographer, and also filmmaker from Slovenia. I worked with him in his previous film that was shot in Peru. That's where we met, and we had really good creative connection as we like both were producing and post-producing this film in Peru that was called Dream to Cure Water. And yeah, while we were together in Slovenia cutting the previous film, he shared that he had this relationship with the children's home in Umarak. He's been there a couple of times and he really wanted to do something around that. So he invited me on board on the team to co-direct this project that we started to shape together. He went there to the children's home in November, last November, to kind of present the project to the kids and to the children's home, and they're really excited about it. And we're going to be traveling there in April. It is a month. for a month. The idea, because it's a Meridian grant from National Geographic, so it has to be interdisciplinary, is that we're going to do the film, but we're also going to be doing a workshop with them, like a storytelling workshop. So they can use also storytelling as a way to express themselves and also like to cope with like the epidemics, the suicidal epidemic that they're going through, which is something really real. And yeah, hopefully through expressing themselves through this art, they're gonna find also a way to create something meaningful for them and for their community, right? And we're gonna be doing these two elements, right? The workshop and also the documentary, that they're gonna like kind of overlap at some points, but yeah, see how that goes. I'll tell you how that.
Yeah. You're handling a sensitive topic there. How did you prepare for this shoot in that way? Did you have a psychologist on the team?
Well, there's a psychologist on the children's home that's going to be part of our team. Fausta, which is the explorer that is in charge of the workshop itself, has a lot of experience working with kids also in refugee camps in Turkey and Greece. So we're kind of trying to work together to create like the safest environment possible, like as a team, and also individually. Also, I started like going to therapy too, reading more about like the topic, mental health, suicide, how to approach it, right? It's hard.
When you're creating a documentary film project, what is important to you to plan in the pre-production and at destination, how to handle being in the home of your protagonist and in nature?
Well, I think that preparation is key. In a lot of senses, like narrative preparation, physical preparation, sometimes too, like psychological preparation, in this case of filming Greenland. Having everyone kind of on the same page, I think that it's key, because like you want to get to the location, your character's home or like nature, and having different members of the team imagining a different film in their heads. It could be really abstract, like films, like every brain works different. So how can we like kind of try to have a similar mental image of what we're putting together, right? I think that in broad terms, that's the goal, right? In pre-production, like having everyone like, okay, we're making a film that is very TED-driven, not interview-driven. These are the scenes that we want to put together. Of course, things can like change and will change, of course, but like you have to have like a singular destination. I think that I always tend to think that documentary films are similar to like road trips, that that you're like getting to, I don't know, Austria. But like, I don't know if where I'm gonna stop in the way. Like maybe a storm is gonna come, like as I'm driving, and I have to like sleep one night in a little town, and then the next day I'm gonna like, but we still have like a route to follow. So yeah, trying to prepare like that as much as you can. Yeah. And then also like having fun, I think. Yeah, I think that's key, like, because a lot of times you're like jumping into people's lives, homes, nature, like they're giving you their time, their access, their privacy. And if it's not a good time, like why are they doing this? Like it has to be like a sense of that it's worth it for them too. And for the crew. And I think that as a director, that's one of your jobs too, to kind of like host a good road trip, like that it's also kind of, there's laughter there too, like of course there's serious moments, but like that it's a good time. And I think that that's something that you can tell like on screen too. Like in Shirampari, we had such a good time. Like we were laughing also with the characters and amongst the crew. There were obstacles, of course, like there were like down moments, of course. But like I think that if you are like having a good time, it's something that you can see on the screen too.
Yeah, well said. When do you start planning for distribution, and what's the overall goal for you with your films?
I think that something that I'm learning as I go too is that like the sooner the better, for sure. So it's good and to have like a producer on board since the idea of a film. That's the way that we did it in Shirampari, and that's the way that we're doing it also like in Ever and the Sharks. That's the way that we're trying to do it with like In It Rising, but it's different because it's a grant. So like there's like a contract with Natgeo that they have exclusivity, so it's different. But like the other ones, yeah, we did. I do work with a producer. His name is Chemi Perez. And yeah, there's like lots of like industry kind of events that you kind of want to be at different points of the process of the film. And it's something that I'm learning too, because it's a whole world, So like when your project is in development, more so if it's a feature film, you want to try to get into like labs from different like film festivals or like film schools. There's lots of labs, right? That pair you up with like mentors or like different sessions that help you craft the film, but also like help you be invisible, like to the industry, that you're like creating a project, that this is a name that, like, and so people know that, for example, Ever and the Sharks is a thing, right? So we are traveling to Malaga, the film festival here in Spain, the day after tomorrow, and we are part of like a co-production development lab also. So we're like pitching the project there, showing a teaser. We have a new teaser.
What's your name?
Name. Con M, mira, sí. Name. Entonces, la respuesta tuya es.
Eva.
Y acá.
Where do you live?
I live in.
Tunis.
Perfecto.
¿Qué te gustaría hacer más adelante?
Biólogo marino.
Biólogo marino.
¿Aló? Ever. Hola, ¿qué tal? Te quería decir que la próxima semana están viniendo unos investigadores de Galápagos para ponerle unas marcas satelitales de los tiburones y quería saber si querías venir conmigo a ver eso. Súper, entonces nos vemos en unos días. Ya yo bajo, entonces tomo IV y miro sexo y de ahí regreso al bote rápido.
Entonces vamos a probar con esta y si vemos que es muy suelta, ahí prueba tú con la otra, porque tenemos las dos armadas, ¿no?
¡Un tiburón! ¡Tiburón, tiburón!
Primer tiburón ballena marcado en Perú. Ya le tienen que poner nombre. Claro. Qué gusto conocerte. Espero verte pronto o acá o en Galápagos. One of the two. Tenemos que hacer que eso pase.
Nos vamos juntos, ¿no?
Pitching. It's something that you have to do. It's very uncomfortable. I mean, for me particularly, I don't like talking in front of people about your project, and it's sensitive and it makes some people anxious, but it's something that you totally have to do. I think put yourself out there, put your project out there, so like it creates the path, an easier path to distribution, because like people in 2 years will remember that this film was like in development, and then it's easier for them to like pick up. And luckily, like if you're like if you have a great project, producer, luck, whatever, you could be like picked up for distribution at one of these labs or festivals, that you're going with an idea, So yeah, I think that the sooner that you plan for distribution, the better chances that you have to, because you still have time to shape the story, for different broadcasters, networks, if that's your goal, or for film festivals, or like even for your own artistic sake, So having like more opinions and putting yourself out there, I think that it's gonna create more chances for distribution.
Do you have any recommendations where it's good to go for that?
Yes, and there's such a overpopulation of festivals too that it's like sometimes hard to navigate. But like here in Spain, for example, San Sebastián is a good one. Málaga also. There's a lab, for example, in Bolivia. There's Ventana Sur in Argentina. I mean, that's the kind of like my world too, which is like a production between Latin America and Hispanic like countries. There's development labs and production labs at Sundance Institute, which are really hard to get into. But if you can, there's one in Campton, also in the States, that is very North Point. I think that's the name. That it's very interesting. And then trying to get grants. I mean, of course, for the money, because you need the money for producing a film. It's really expensive to produce a film. But also for the exposure, I think that it's key, right? Trying to gain, like, if you have like a grant from Sundance Institute, maybe you're gonna get more like eyes on you for sure, right? So trying to have like a plan, and I think that that's key in the relationship between like a director and a producer, to like have that creative like nucleus where you can like do this plan and kind of check the business side of making a film too, right? Because it's lovely to make documentary films, but like if you want to make it a sustainable way of living in today's like world where like it's so competitive and you have to do those things and do them dance, for sure.
Thanks for that. And for documentary filmmakers just starting their careers, what advice would you give them?
What advice? I think that, trying to find first your own voice, that it's something that takes time and practice, but always having that like will to explore like what's your creative vision, what's your like, or what stories do you have access to, what kind of makes you unique, right, in such a vast world of people doing similar things, like how can you create your own style or voice or like kind of topics that you want to explore. Another thing, crafting stories, that is something obvious, but like that are not subjects, that are not topics. One thing is like a topic, like I want to make a documentary, for example, about whale sharks, or like I want to do a documentary about like climate anxiety. Okay, but like what's the story? Who are your protagonists? Like, thinking about those things as soon as you can, I think that will put you in a better place. Spending more time in pre-production, I think that it's key. Also to like craft the story that you want to make, right? Like look deep into what characters make it like unique, or what things they're going through, that you can shoot, or when, so you don't like burn your resources in just like shooting for the sake of shooting, but like stopping to think exactly like what are the pieces that you need to put things together. I think that that's an important one. Teams, I think that is crucial. Like films are made by a team of people, and because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of unpaid effort most of the time, until you get something going, So yeah, having that like close people that you trust, that like the project, that are on board, that are gonna help you like navigate the highs and the lows, because sometimes you get like a grant or you get like into a lab and it's great, but then sometimes you don't, and you get rejection after rejection, and you kind of like want to drop the project. But if you have like someone there that's like that believes in the project and can like help you to push forward, I think that that's really important, like, and be that like emotional support, at this point, like it's important because there's a lot of exposure, rejection, and like questioning, am I good enough? Am I not? Am I doing the right thing? So like if you have like that emotional support, I think that's great. Yeah, I think that would be one of the things that I would recommend.
That's great advice. Thank you. And thanks so much for being here, Chia. And good luck with filming your next project. And I hope to talk with you soon again.